Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third lecture of the Weather Reporting and Forecasting Program. As you all know, the Weather Reporting and Forecasting Program is an annual project organized by the Globe family of Royal College, which was initiated in 2017. This year, it will take the form of a lecture series consisting of 4 lectures. Last week, at the second lecture, we discussed about weather forecasting, and Mrs. Jayawardena also showed us a few instruments and devices used to forecast the weather. So, today's lecture will be on climate change and future climate. To conduct it, we have with us Mrs. Shiromani Jayawardena. She is a very experienced individual in this field. She is the present director of forecasting and decision support at the Department of Meteorology, Sri Lanka. She is a member of the Association of Disaster Risk Management Professionals, Sri Lanka. She is a member of the Meteorological Association of South Asia. She is a member of the Meteorological Society of America. She is a research assistant at the Department of Meteorology at the University of Hawaii in USA. And she also has a research interest in climate change, tropical cyclones, seasonal forecasting, heavy rainfall events, and the Asian monsoon. Since we are facing a lot of issues due to changes in the climate and the environment, this is a very timely topic as we can be aware and better prepared to face these challenges. We are very lucky to learn all about it from someone who practically forecasts the weather for the whole country. Before we start, just a reminder to all our participants, if you have any questions, please raise your hand using the raise hand option and we will unmute you, or you can use the chat. Then without further ado, I would like to invite Mrs. Shiromani Jayawardena to conduct the lecture.
Okay, thank you very much, Puta. So I have little bit changed my topic. It's climate change, future climate projection, and climate risk, because we are currently facing our climate is at risk right now. So it's very timely topic, like you mentioned earlier. So before that, let's start from the beginning. Because this is the outline. Actually, I will talk about climate system, and the climate variability, climate change, earth radiation budget also very important, and what are the external influence to the climate and internal influence to the climate, like El Nino, La Nina, Indian Ocean dipole, and what are the observed climate trends globally and locally, and how extreme climate indices will increase or decrease in future, and climate projections for Sri Lanka, future climate projections. And then a little bit discuss about latest, day before 9th, 2 days, last week, there was a report published by IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. It's an assessment report. Every 5 years, they prepare a report based on the latest findings from research activities. So I would like to reveal some important points of that IPCC latest report also. So climate, we talk about weather. Weather is what's happening right now in atmosphere. So short-term changes of the atmosphere. But when we talk about climate is somewhat different. It is the average, long-term average of different weather parameters. It can be monthly, annually, or seasonally. Some countries, like polar region countries, they have different season based on the temperature. But Sri Lanka, because we are located very closer to equator, temperature will not change that much throughout the year. Only we have that location, spatial variations of the temperature, because we have central mountains, top of the mountains, we get mild temperatures compared to the coastal regions. Main factor, decisive factor for climate seasons are the timing of monsoons, because Sri Lanka is located in the Asian monsoon region and near to the equator. So we have tropical equatorial climate also. In addition to that, we have monsoonal climate. So our seasons are based on timing of two monsoons. So we have southwest monsoon season from May to September. We are right now in the southwest monsoon season. 30% of annual rainfall coming from the southwest monsoon season. And then we have northeast monsoon season from December to February. Most of the dry zone will get rain during this time, and 26% coming from northeast monsoon. And then we have intermonsoon, that is transition period between two monsoons, where we get a lot of thunderstorms and lightning activity. So first intermonsoon, only 14% of annual rain contribution is only 14%. And second intermonsoon, that is upcoming October-November season, we get fairly widespread rains. 30% of annual rain comes from only that 2 months, and fairly widespread. Every part will get some rain during second intermonsoon season. And then, so extreme events shows us the variability of climate, and climatology is a study of climate and its controls and spatial temporal variability. So this is the Colombo rainfall. So we can see two peaks we call bimodal pattern of rainfall. One peak comes around May and other peaks in October and November. Each dot represent that monthly rainfall we receive during different years. So we can see this, some years we got twice more rain, but some years only 1/4 of rain, 25% of monthly rainfall. So that is the variability that we call year-to-year variation or interannual variability. We will discuss that in our next slides. So we have global climate, regional climate, and local climate. So the climate of a region depends on many factors. Main factor is amount of sunlight received. So that latitude and location. That's why Sri Lanka, we don't have seasons based on our temperature, because throughout the year we get a lot of sunshine. Above sea level, height above sea level, and so because you know that Nuwara we get mild temperatures, Anuradhapura we got hot temperatures, like so that depend on the height above sea level also important factor. Shape of the land and its proximity to ocean, how close to the Sri Lanka got mild climate because because our temperature never goes above 50 so far, but I don't know in future with the changing climate, temperature extremes may have go above that, but so far it's maximum it's up to 40 degrees. So that is because we are surrounded by ocean. We have some sort of cooling effect from the ocean. So there are a description about global climate. Mainly global climate depends on amount of energy received that from sun and how much energy trapped by the system. So when we talk about climate, we have to know about climate system, because climate is very complex issue. That whether it's only we need to worry about atmosphere, but when we talk about climate, we have to consider ocean, we have to consider biosphere and atmosphere, and then ice, amount of ice, we call it cryosphere. This cryosphere is the ice. Ice means sea ice, glaciers, land ice, snow cover, everything is under cryosphere. So there are main 5 components: hydrosphere, including ocean and other sort of water sources, and cryosphere, that is solid state of water, ice sheets, land ice, sea ice, and land surface, biosphere. So these are the components, and atmosphere. So these components are always interacting with each other. So that we call internal climate variability. like El Nino and La Nina, that these two events occurs due to interaction between ocean and atmosphere. And there are many other external factors also, like volcanic eruptions, solar radiations, and human-induced factors, like how we change our land use patterns, how much greenhouse gases we emit to the atmosphere. These factors are human influence factors that impact our climate. So Earth radiation budget is the how much energy we receive from sun, and because some of the energy will reflected by clouds and some absorbed by the atmosphere. There are a lot of gases in the atmosphere, and some absorbed by the Earth's surface, some reflect by the Earth's surface. And then once Earth's surface absorbs this energy, it re-radiates. We call it terrestrial radiation in the infrared range. So these are the visible range. So this amount of how much incoming radiation and the difference between outgoing radiation, that we call net radiation. So in generally, we have the tropical region, we get more energy because it's the sunlight's directly incident on this region, but other region it incident in slant angle. So, and other thing is the polar region, we have a lot of ice and snow cover, which reflect most of the this incoming solar radiation. So there exists imbalance in energy, because we have more energy over tropical region and energy deficit over the polar region. So somehow this imbalance has to be balanced. So there are mechanisms that act to balance that, this excess energy from tropical region to transport this excess energy from the tropical region to deficit regions like polar regions. One is the this is atmospheric circulation pattern. So warm air rises over the equator, near equator, then subsidence over this nearly 30° north and south. Most of the desert regions are located over this region. And again over polar, near 60 north, we have rising motion and sinking motion over this northern pole and southern pole. So there, these cells we call Hadley cell, polar cell, and Ferrel cell. And in addition to that, we have ocean currents. Warm ocean currents move excess energy from tropical region to polar region, and subsurface cool currents comes towards tropical region near equator. So in that way also some balance occurred, and rest of the energy goes like extreme weather events like tropical cyclones. Even though tropical cyclones are deadly, we require that type of mechanism to transport this excess energy from tropical region to the polar region. So these are the three main mechanisms which transport this excess energy from this tropical region to towards the polar region. And let's talk about the climate of Sri Lanka. Like I mentioned earlier, our climate is monsoonal, because our country is located in Asian monsoon region, and in addition to that, we are located very closer to equator. So we have like equatorial tropical influence also there. So other thing is one decisive factor of our climate is the central mountains, because this central mountain locate exactly facing the two monsoon winds. So we get more rain during this region during southwest monsoon season, and more rain over this region during northeast monsoon season. So this is the annual rainfall distribution. We get more rain over this southwestern part and less rain over this region. So based on the rainfall received and other factors. So there are 3 climatic zones: wet zone, dry zone, and intermediate zone. This is the how annual temperature distribution. So we know that central highlands get cooler effects due to the height. And so like I mentioned earlier, so we have 4 monsoon seasons. So these are the climate of Sri Lanka. So this is the rainfall distribution. So we during southwest monsoon, this region get more rain. Second in the monsoon, fairly balanced rainfall. We get all over the Sri Lanka, and northeast monsoon more rain over this region. And first in the monsoon, again wet and intermediate zones. So these are the monthly rainfall distribution like that. So year-to-year variation, like I mentioned earlier, some years, this is from 1961 to 1990. So each dot represent, particularly if we consider this month of May, each dot represent from rainfall amount they received from 1961 to 1990. So we can clearly see some years we get very high amount of rainfall. Like this year also we got very good monsoon. So we got lot of rain, but some years we got less rain. So every month it is similar. So some years we got more rain, some years we got less rain. So that is because of the internal climate variability, that is ocean and atmospheric interactions. So these type of conditions, there are global phenomena like El Nino, La Nina, Indian Ocean dipole moment. So these factors influence our rainfall. So when we have El Nino years, we get sometimes more rain, sometimes less rain, depending on the season. So we'll discuss that later. And positive and negative IOD also influence our rainfall. That's why year-to-year variation there. But on average, when we consider 30 years, so on average, around 400 millimeter rainfall we can expect during month of May and again month of October over Colombo. So let's see what are the natural climate variability factors influence the natural climate variability. Before that, there are some natural forces can act to change climate. So these are, we call it Milankovitch cycle. So the precession of Earth rotation can change. So this happen longer time scales, like once in 26 years time. It's very slowly it change, and the eccentricity can change, and tilt of the Earth rotation axis can change, but it takes at least 10,000 to 100,000 years to change this type of things. So these are the natural phenomena. Like I think you have seen that movie called Ice Age. So we have passed this type of several ages in our climate when the climate evolved. So these things happen because of the changes of these type of things. Then we have like short-term influences like volcanic eruptions. So this is the Pinatubo volcanic eruption in Philippines, 1991. So a lot of aerosols emitted into the atmosphere. So these aerosols can scatter incoming solar radiation, and so the Earth will receive less solar radiation. So temporary cooling can occur. So this type of things, if there's a very huge volcanic eruption, so effects will remain like 1 year or maximum 2 years. But after that, with rainfall and other spreading of these aerosols all over the globe, it can deposit back to the land with the rainfall. So this influence will be over in 1 year or maximum 2 years. So this is the radiative forcing. Radiative forcing is the difference between incoming radiation and outgoing radiation. So if we have less incoming radiation and more outgoing radiation, net radiative forcing is negative. This is watts per meter squared. But if we have more incoming radiation than less and outgoing radiation, we have warming. So the temporary cooling of this atmosphere occurs, climate occurs, this type of volcanic eruptions also. Another thing is solar variability. I heard recently also we heard about this solar hotspots, more flames from the sun. So this is temporary occurs. So this type of solar variability also influence our climate. Then, like I mentioned earlier, internal climate. These are the external climate influences, natural external climate influences, and these are the natural internal climate influences. Because that I mentioned about, there are 5 components: hydrosphere, land, biosphere, atmosphere, and cryosphere. Cryosphere is the sea ice, sea ice and land ice and snow and glaciers. So these components interact each other, especially atmosphere and ocean always interact in each other. So because of this atmospheric ocean interaction, there can be unusual warming over Pacific Ocean or an unusual cooling. So this unusual cooling we call El Nino, and unusual cooling we call La Nina. And again, similar to this Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean also we have unusual cooling over the Eastern Indian Ocean and warming over the Western Indian Ocean. This phenomena we call in positive Indian Ocean dipole, and the opposite we call negative Indian Ocean dipole. So this type of phenomena can alter our atmospheric circulation patterns and bring excess rain or deficit rainfall. So this is second intermonsoon rain. In typically during El Nino years, we get more rain during October, November, and during La Nina years, we get less rain during October, November. So this year also, La Nina, mild La Nina conditions predicted in October, November. So you can see whether we get more rain or less rain. So it's, I think as the students, you can observe it and see these predictions are, these are the based on actually one phenomena, but in atmosphere and ocean, there are many other phenomena. So these phenomena are interacting with each other. So can be different, but you can, sorry, you can observe yourself. And then, so this is that Pacific Ocean. This is the typical Pacific Ocean. We have less SST over this region. So we call this cold tongue over this. This is America. This is Peru, near Peru coast. And we have throughout there, we have easterlies, like unlike Indian Ocean, because Indian Ocean, sometimes we have southwesterlies and northeasterlies, but in Pacific Ocean, throughout the year we have easterlies. And in the ocean also, we have this easterly currents top of the ocean, near surface ocean, and westerly currents over depth of ocean. So this phenomena changes during El Nino events. So El Nino events, unusual warming occurs over here. So the typically we have subsidence or sinking motion, or there's no rising motion over this region, but during El Nino we have more rain over this region and less rain over this region. La Nina is we have more rain over this region and less rain over this region. This is, even though this is happening in Pacific Ocean, it will affect Sri Lankan and other countries also. So this is typical El Nino year, 1997, very strong El Nino event occurred. This and this is again 2015, another strong El Nino occurred. And then, so this is how that atmospheric and ocean interaction occurs. This is the typically normal conditions. So we have more warming over the Western Pacific and cooling over Eastern Pacific, but during El Nino, the warming has shifted towards the Eastern Pacific. This is the Pacific Ocean. This is the western side of the Pacific Ocean, and this is the Eastern Pacific of the Pacific Ocean. And so this is how it happens. So during this is a neutral year, and then this warming spread over the Pacific Ocean. And by end of 1997, we have more warming over here and more cooling over this region. So this is the most highest peak of the El Nino condition. And then by March, so we can see that warming has spread out again towards the Western Pacific. So this is its impact. Different El Nino and La Nina will impact different regions. So Sri Lanka also during, especially second winter monsoon is the most highly impacted by the El Nino and La Nina. We get more rain during El Nino and less rain during La Nina. And northeast monsoon also opposite occurs. We get less rain during El Nino and more rain during La Nina. And in the southwest monsoon, especially these western slopes, the hill country area, get less rain during El Nino and more rain during La Nina. So this type of information is very important, especially most of our hydropower generate reservoirs located in this hill country. So during El Nino, we know that we will not get much rain. So they can go for alternative power generation methods. So this is typical things happen during that El Nino year 2015 to 2016. So this is Atacama Desert in Chile. So this is called the one of the driest place in the earth, but we can see the flowers blooming over this region. And then El Nino, like Sri Lanka, southern India also get more rain during October, November. This is end of November. Chennai airport fully flooded by this very strong, very heavy rain. And then this is Indonesia. Indonesia generally get more rain during La Nina and less rain during El Nino. So El Nino, they had a lot of forest fires and drought over US. So this is the impact. During 2015, we got more rain during that second winter monsoon, October, November. So Indian Ocean dipole is same. Less rain. Now we have to consider two things. So one is the climate variability and climate change. So sometimes we, what is the difference between climate variability and climate change? Climate variability is like weather, climate also change. I mean, not long-term change, short-term changes there. So these are depending on internal influences like El Nino or Indian Ocean dipole, and there are other factors, other phenomena. So based on these phenomena, climate can change year-to-year variations there. So that we call climate change. So any questions or anything? So, but climate change is, it operates over longer term. If we can see within this climate variability, if we can see a change, increase in trend or decrease in trend of the mean state of the climate, that we call climate change. So let's see example. So how the climate will change? Like I mentioned earlier, so there are natural factors like volcanic eruptions or changes in the Earth orbit, like eccentricity, tilting, or precision. So this can be changed, but it takes longer time, like at least 10,000 years to 100,000 years. And there are natural carbon dioxide presence in the atmosphere. That also required for climate to exist, because if there is no greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, our temperature will be average temperature will be minus 18 degrees Celsius. So right now it's 15 degrees Celsius plus But if we don't have greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, it will be minus 18 degrees Celsius, too cold for us to live. But the problem is now these greenhouse gases are natural one. But now because of after the Industrial Revolution, we have emitted a lot of carbon dioxide as well as other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And now because of that warming, climate has started to change. So let's talk about that. So these are the natural greenhouse gas effect. So there should be some amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, but right now because of the human influence, so there are many more concentration of carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, like more greenhouse gases present in the atmosphere. So the warming, because these greenhouse gases absorb the radiation emitted by the earth and re-emit towards the earth. So it acts like a blanket. If you are covered by a blanket, you feel warm. Like that, it acts as a blanket, and our earth system feel that warm right now. So these are the greenhouse gases, main human factors. So human activities send gases like carbon dioxide, methane into the atmosphere, and especially fossil fuel burning from due to power generation or vehicle transportation. So this type of industries emits lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now that atmosphere hold too much heat. So this causes global warming. Let's see. Since 1750s, before Industrial Revolution, now we have 47 more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So there should be some natural carbon dioxide, but in addition, we have 47 more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because of the human factors, and methane percentage is more than 156%, and nitrous oxide more than 23%. So because of that, global warming happening. So there are carbon sinks, that some phenomena absorb carbon, like forest, they absorb carbon, and ocean also absorb carbon. But now we call that carbon sinks. But now we have more carbon sources than carbon sinks. So aerosols also act as a pollutant. These are the tiny particles, and land use changes, because we have cut lot of forest, and with the development for road development projects. So and most of the forest converted into the agricultural lands, and agricultural practices also some emits methane. So that also cause warming. So these are the trends. So here actually I wanted to show you this. So there are all in this figure you can see natural factors affects earth system, that is this volcanic eruption. So different years there are many volcanic eruption occurs. And in addition to that, red dot represent El Nino years and blue dot represent La Nina years. So you can see the internal variability, year-to-year variations. And within this year-to-year variation, you can see increase in trend in temperature. So that we call climate change. So in here we have external climate influences, internal climate influences, as well as climate change represent in this figure. So this is based on that latest report published last week. So this is because this is from 1 to year 2020. So this is 2000 years ago and now. So this is the temperature variations, year to year variation. So you can see it's in within this range, but especially -5 to +5. So this is within this range, and then sudden increase we can see after 1850 to 2020. So these are because of the natural factors, these changes, but this change is because human influence. So again, this is same thing if they model it. So if there's no human influence, the temperature has to be somewhere here right now in 2020, but actual temperature is somewhere here. This is a difference between observed temperature present minus temperature observed in 1850. So this difference occurred due to human factors. If it's only natural factor, that is solar and volcanic eruptions, it has to be somewhere here, very closer to 0. So this is a temperature difference. So these are the trends we observed. So we observed our, we have within this year-to-year changes, we can see increase in trend in temperatures and extreme rainfall events, like high intense rainfall events. And we found warm nights are increasing in Sri Lanka over most of the places, and cold nights are decreasing. This is annual precipitation is increasing, and number of days about 10, 20, 30 millimeter rainfall is increasing. But the alarming thing is, even though annual rainfall is increasing, the contribution from the extreme rainfall events are very high, especially 5 consecutive day rainfall and 1 day maximum rainfall is increasing over most of the places. So the global climate trends found air temperature near surface increase, snow cover and ice cover decreases, atmospheric water vapor increases, sea level increasing, ocean heat content increasing, sea ice cover decreasing, and evaporation and evapotranspiration increasing. So because of this, these are the factors that show us that our climate is changing, and this changing climate can lead very high intense rain, more frequent extreme events, spatial extension, duration, timing of weather and climate extremes will change. So these are the other things. With the warming, that sea ice and land ice shrinking, and then this albedo is the amount reflected, solar radiation reflected amount that decreases. So this again will increase our warming, because if there's a less ice sheets, most of the radiation without reflecting it absorbed by the Earth's surface, and so the warming will be increased. So this cycle, because of this Arctic, we call ice albedo feedback in the Arctic Ocean. So this is the sea ice content in the Arctic. So we can see drastically changing from 1970, it is up to 2011, but even this decrease in trend continuously coming. So these are the factors that influence due to climate change. Sea level can rise. Actually in 20th century, only 15 centimeters sea level rose up to now, but in future it can go up to 1 to 2 millimeters during next centuries. This will threaten our coastal communities, wetlands, coral reefs, And then Arctic sea ice and glaciers, permafrost melting. Permafrost is the frost in the beneath the Earth's surface. Beneath the Earth's surface also there are some frost exist, but when this melting of permafrost emit more methane into the atmosphere, so that cause more warming. And then sea surface temperatures are warming, so this will affect our coral reefs. This will some fish can shift into the cooler places, and heavy rainfall causing flooding in many regions will increase. Droughts will increase, ecosystem will change, and more intense hurricanes and tropical cyclones can be seen in future, and more frequent atmospheric heat waves as well as oceanic heat waves can be there, and sea water becoming more acidic. So we can expect more acidity in the sea waters in future. So this, I think I show this even my last lectures also. This is the flood events in last few years. So we can see drastically increase in trend over Asia, even in other countries also. So we can see this increasing trend. So this change in climate change will affect our rainfall, monsoon pattern, extreme rainfall events due to rainfall as well as temperatures. So this will impact different sectors: agriculture, water, and more disasters we can expect. It will impact our health and ecosystem. So more impact for the rural livelihoods. So what we can do for that? First, to see what's going to happen in future, we need to know about future climate. What will be our future climate? And we have to reduce this greenhouse gases. We have to do mitigation. Mitigation is how we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. For that, actually, we need to go for green energy, wind power energy, solar power energy, hydropower energy, rather than coal and fuel burning. Other thing is we have to reduce the vulnerability. What is the vulnerable? People who can affect by this climate change. For example, farmers. So there will be a lot of droughts we can expect in future, and again there will be more rain, unseasonal rain. So in generally that farmers, they have practice. They expect some rain during land preparation, then they do the planting, and they have harvesting season. So during harvesting season, they expect dry weather, because then they can do the harvesting, and then they can dry those things. So if we have very heavy rainfall during that time, whole their production can be lost. So how can we reduce that? They will be more vulnerable. So how can we reduce that vulnerability? For that, we call climate change adaptation. How we can adapt into these changes in the climate. Other thing is mitigation. Mitigation is how we can reduce the greenhouse gases. So for both of that, we need to know what will be our future climate. So future climate projections is based on the mathematical models. Like I mentioned earlier, I explained how we do atmospheric modeling. So similarly, we have to do land models, we have to do land surface models, we have to have ocean models, sea ice models, like that. In addition to atmospheric models, there will be other models to represent other natural phenomena. So, and we usually whether we call weather prediction or weather forecast, climate outlook, we don't say future climate prediction, because projection word we give because there are a lot of uncertainty. We don't know how much greenhouse gases will be there in the atmosphere in future. There can be, it can be high or it can be low. If we go for green energy, if we have green energy policies, So if we do lot of reforestation, afforestation, if we conserve our forests, so things can be changed. So the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, they have different emission scenarios. There are 4 emission scenarios, but based on last report, they have 5 emission scenarios. This is the before that actually. This is RCP, means representative concentration pathways. So 2.6 is in 2100 year, the net radiative forcing. I think I explained that earlier. Radiative forcing is the difference between incoming and outgoing radiation. That forcing will be positive 2.6 watts per meter squared. So in this scenario, if high emission scenario, it has to be 8.5 watts per meter squared in the atmosphere. So compared to the pre-industrial levels. So for that, we have global climate models where we have representing atmosphere, ocean, land, ice cover, and biosphere. So let's see how these are the atmosphere, sea ice, ocean, ice sheets, land ice, and so these components are there. So this is how this evolved. In 1960s, I mentioned earlier, we had very limited computer resources. So we have only 2, land, surface, and ocean. Then with the technological advancement, so we have included different, right now we have atmosphere, land, surface, oceans, sea ice, aerosols, carbon cycle, vegetative, interactive vegetation. There are many components, like they introduce different components, and for that we need very high computational power. So, and the grid size, like I mentioned earlier, so grid spacing also different. So see, this is how the our land will represent in different grids. So this is 500 kilometer, like one grid represent one value for temperature, pressure, rainfall, everything. So if Sri Lanka in one 500 and 500 kilometer grid box, whole Sri Lanka will represent by one grid. So that means that topographical changes or the changes will not represent, especially at least our 3 climatic zones will not represent by these models. But right now we have increased up to latest one, this is 2007, and now we have improved this up to 50 kilometers. So the grid resolution will represent many features more precisely. So emission scenarios, like I mentioned RCP scenarios, so these are based on different things. We have to consider emission coming from natural as well as man-made. So how much greenhouse gases will be emitted, other pollutants, and how the land use pattern change and land cover will change, and then population growth, economic growth, technological developments. So all these things has to be considered when we develop emission scenarios. So that's why this representative concentration pathways, now they have changed this into socio-economic, shared socio-economic pathways in recent report, IPCC recent report. But this report, because we developed for Sri Lanka based on these RCPs, so we have low emission scenario as well as high emission scenario and moderate emission scenario. This is how radiation, the difference between incoming and outgoing radiation, that is the net radiative forcing. So this again, and then because we don't have any resources for run this type of climate models. Only in the world there are like 40 institutes have that capacity to run this type of models. What we do is we use this global model and we downscale into Sri Lanka, and then different river basins and maybe shorter like DSD division. So for that, actually, we use 6 global models. One is CAN, ESM2 is Canadian Center for Climate Modeling, and then Meteor France model from the France, and then Australian, they have Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organization model, and then US model, their Geophysical Fluid Laboratory model, and National Center for Atmospheric Research model, and one model from Japan, that is Japanese Meteorological Research Institute model. So we use these 6 models, and then we prepare how our seasonal rainfall will change in future under moderate emission scenario and high emission scenario. So we found that this is northeast monsoon. Northeast monsoon will get less rain during northeast monsoon in future under both emission scenarios. Though this is first winter monsoon. First winter monsoon will get more rain in moderate emission scenario, but less rain during high emission scenario. And then we found that this is second winter monsoon, and this is second winter monsoon and southwest monsoon. Southwest monsoon we get more rain, especially over this wet zone get more rain in future, and second winter monsoon also we get more rain, but comparatively we get more rain during southwest monsoon in future. And then temperature will increase under both emission scenarios, day temperatures as well as night temperatures. So far, Sri Lanka did not experience heat waves, but in future, especially after 2030, we can. This is the heat wave events in Colombo. Under both emission scenarios, we will receive heat waves in future, and with the high emission scenario, we will get more heat waves. So we have to be prepared for excessive heat in future. So these are the precipitation and extreme. There are different indices for extreme precipitation. So all the extreme precipitation will increase with the future, both high emission as well as moderate emission scenarios. So this is the sea level rise. This is over Sri Lanka. If it's moderate emission, it can experience 1 meter sea level rise in 2150. Yeah? In 2020, it will be 2100. It will be 0.6. That is around 2 meters, 2 feet. But in that high emission scenario, it can go up to 2 meters. So that is 6 feet sea level rise can experience. So this sea level rise is it's not only the city will, the area will submerge. So salt water intrusion, this sea water can intrude into our freshwater system. So we will have less water for the drinking. So that is also a very critical issue. So with this projections, we can expect increased heavy rainfall events leading to floods, landslides, soil erosion, more runoff, and less infiltration. Because, you know, like with the rainfall, we need to recharge our groundwater system. But if we get very high intense rain, our groundwater will not be recharged, but runoff will be, more water will go to the sea. Then increase dry periods and droughts, increased temperature extremes means more energy demand. So we need to cool ourselves. So more demand for air conditioning and some sort of cooling methods. And there will be more heat related health issues, more evaporation, less water loss from the soil and water bodies. So these things we can expect. So this is the report I mentioned earlier. Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, they issued this report on physical science basis last week. So these are the key informations. Changes in climate are widespread and rapid and intensify. They are unprecedented in 1,000 years. So earlier, if you remember, like my first lecture, I mentioned about one extreme rainfall event happened in China. So their annual rainfall, whatever the rainfall amount they get for 1 year, they got in 2 days, and 50% of that rainfall got in 6 hours, and 30% got from 1 hour. So they said it's happening once in 1,000 years, but in future we will get more of these type of things. Day before yesterday, our Kandy and Hill Country region experienced very intense rain. 1 hour, nearly more than 100 millimeter rainfall. So there were flooding and flash flooding and some cutting failures, not landslides, but some roads covered by the cutting failures. So this type of things we can experience. Right now, we in Europe, usually we heard forest fires in Australia and California, but right now Greece, Turkey, even the world's coolest place, Siberia also, they got these forest fires. So in future, we have to face for this type of forest fires also. Other thing is human activities are indisputably causing this climate change, making heat waves, heavy rainfall, droughts, and will be more frequent and severe in future. And some changes are irreversible. Like we found that now in the ocean, there are some, regions where they don't have oxygen anymore. So this type of irreversible changes also happening to our climate system, and climate change affecting every region in multiple ways. So changes we experience will increase in future. So so we have to act immediately, reduce greenhouse gases in large scale. Large scale reduction of greenhouse gases is required. Right now we are in 1 degree Celsius warming. We have to cut at least into 1.5. Still we can experience this type of extreme weather and climate related events. But if we go for more like 2-3 degree warming, so I don't think it will be inhabitable in future. So these are another report came, that is the IPCC's special report on ocean and cryosphere. So they also said that 1 to 2 meter sea level rise in 2100 if emissions are not sharply reduced. And most of the ocean absorb the excess carbon dioxide, but in future they will not absorb that. So our atmosphere will emission from this carbon dioxide, and so this will not act as a carbon sinks in future. So we will get more warming and shift in fish population that will affect our food security. Even right now, because of this Diamond Express ship incident, so that people are little bit shifting eating of this fish, ocean acidification, and marine heat waves. So far we didn't heard about this marine heat waves. Marine heat waves is anomalous warming of the ocean. It can extend for a larger area, like several thousand square kilometers, and it can stay there for a longer time, like 2-3 months, and it will affect our coral, kelp forest, and distribution of marine life. So the projections, if we will not limit our warming 1.5 to, then our risk will be 4 times more if we go for 2 or 3 degrees Celsius warming. So this is right now we are at alarm. This report is gives us very alarming information, and what we can do, we have to mitigate. For that, afforestation, we have to replant forest, and reforestation, if we have cut forest, we can replant again, and conservation of forest important. And we have to go for climate smart agriculture, like how we can use less rainfall water in agriculture, and that most of present agricultural practices emit methane into the atmosphere, how we can reduce that. And especially we have to go for renewable energy like wind energy, solar energy, hydropower energy, like that. And then we need to adapt. Whatever mitigation we do, we have to, because currently we are facing extreme weather events. So in future, we have to adapt to that. For that, how we can use the climate information for the decision making. Then in future, there will some areas will be inhabited, so human resettlements will be there, and it will impact some species will growth in the warming climate. So there will be health issues, there will be water issues, energy, disaster, food security, biodiversity. So all these sectors will changes in our climate. Other thing is because we are experiencing a lot of extreme events, so we have to go for sophisticated monitoring and early warning systems. So right now we have drought monitoring system and lightning detection system and flash flood guidance system, but there are a lot of uncertainties because it's very difficult to predict future, especially with the changes occurred in the climate right now. So however, we need to improve these things. And even though we did not receive heat waves, so we already started to issue heat health early warning system together consultation with the this health ministry. So heat advisories, and we mentioned what to do during action required that. So in future, like I mentioned earlier, that ocean and land act as a human, carbon dioxide sinks. They absorb the carbon dioxide, but if we in future, if we right now actually we are somewhere here, but if we emit more carbon dioxide into the our atmosphere, so this carbon sink will reduce, but hence more warming can be expected. So these are the hazards in future what we can experience. This is over this South Asia region, because we will get more marine mean temperature will be increased, extreme heat will increase, cold spells and frost will decrease, then precipitation, floods, these things will increase, and then coastal hazards, coastal erosions, marine heat wave, ocean acidification, these things will increase in future. So we have to act more decisively right now, unless we act more because especially I think in future we have to expect more forest. This is over Alla Forest Reserve a few years ago, but we can expect more forest fires even in Sri Lanka in future. So these are the right now actually we emitted 40 gigatons per year, but under these different emission scenarios, if we have to go for low emission scenario, we have to reduce sharply by zero emission by at least 2050 to come to that targets. So these are the questions you have asked. First, on greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere will continue to increase unless the billion tons substantially. What are the adverse effects? So with the warming, so we can experience more atmospheric heat and oceanic heat, and that will be more ocean heat is the main cause for the formation of tropical cyclones. So we can expect more intense tropical cyclones. With the warming, atmosphere can hold more water vapor. That's why we experience more extreme rainfall events and more droughts as well, as because if we get annual rainfall in 1-2 days, so there will be consecutive dry days after that. So we have to expect heavy rain as well as drought conditions in future. First one, and how to overcome, like I mentioned earlier, to overcome this, we have to go for mitigation. So we have to, especially we emit lot of carbon dioxide for transport and then the energy. So we have to go for like clean energy, green energy. So in future also you can work to find lot of research there, because we need to identify materials which can cool our indoors as well as especially, and we need to replant, and we have to do a lot of afforestation, reforestation, and we need to conserve our existing forest. What are the rapid changes and slow changes? Rapid changes we call sudden onset events, like heavy rainfall, heavy rainfall events are the sudden rapid things occur. Atmospheric warming also is slow changes, and sea level rise is slow changes. Drought is earlier we consider slow onset events, but now it's in the middle, because this slow changes like sea level rise, it takes like 1 year, few millimeters like that. It takes a lot of time to see these changes, but drought, it occurs in once in 4-5 years. So so this will be like in the intermediate place, but rapid changes are especially increasing temperature, like heat waves is rapid changes, and high intense rainfall, these are the rapid changes. What are the strategies and actions we can take? I will discuss that later. So I am not really sure this question 5, who are the environmentalists who are helping to this course? What can we do to help? That we will discuss that. So simple things we can do. We can reuse things. We can use reusable bags. We can ban polythene and these type of things. We can reuse contents, and then you can switch off your electric bulb when you go out. You switch off your fan. Sometimes some places, aircon, when you go, you are not in that place. So then take short showers, because water is also an important issue, because we have to conserve our water. Keep room cool by closing blinds and shades, and turn off lights when you leave room, and then use compact fluorescent bulbs and light emitting the LEDs, and then dress lightly if it's hot. Walk, if you like short distance, you can walk, or you can go by bicycle without using a car, and plant a tree and recycle. That is very important. So these are the things you can do. And in a broad way, if you want go for beyond that, in future you can try to find out new ways to do get renewable energy. So that is very important thing. So next, there are some questions. Sri Lankan weather reporting and forecasting. will new data processing techniques allow prediction of climate disasters? Actually, we have to work for that. Data processing alone cannot, not enough. We need to do numerical modeling, and we have to more observation data, especially over the sea areas, high resolution models, more understanding of the weather systems, because each weather system is different. So what are the causes behind that? Some things are not fully understood by that. It's very difficult to identify the theories. So there are a lot of research in this region, in this area. And there are a lot, we have to go for like big data handling, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning techniques, because there are a lot of data there to identify which products are the best for Sri Lanka and other countries also. How can we use drones? Actually, so far we didn't use drones, but actually we use satellite to detect weather information. But drones, they try to use it in other countries. But of course, drones are used to identify the disasters, to assess the loss and damage caused by the disasters. What is the technology used in weather balloons? Actually, here we send the balloon and we measure the elevation using azimuth angle. There's an instrument called theodolite. For that, we observe this balloon path through this theodolite, and then we convert into wind speed and wind direction. But other balloons, like we have that radiosonde balloon, they have separate instrument. GPS also there, so we can identify the location, and they send some pulses to the instrument, and from that pulses we can identify humidity, temperature, and wind direction and wind speed. What are the innovative methods identified Sri Lanka for weather forecasting? And these two questions are similar. So how does Sri Lanka use present developing technology on weather and forecasting and reporting? Actually, we use multi-models approach, because one models, because different models give different predictions. So if you see many models give same type of forecast, so we can more have more confidence over that forecast. So that's why we go from this multi-model approach. And then the ensemble model prediction, because the model to run, we need to know about what present atmospheric conditions. For that, we have very limited data right now. So while the model run, the atmosphere can change. So there are different, we call that data assimilation, and data assimilation also there are different methods. So what we do is we change the initial, that is present conditions, and run the model for different, we call the ensemble prediction. So that also we use. And in future, right now we are start this impact-based warnings, but future we will get more. We need to, like, for example, if there's a heavy rain, so which area exactly will be inundated, and this type of impact-based warnings we will issue. But for that, we need a lot of data, ground data also. And like some construction issues, like developing projects also hindered, can cause some damages. So these are temporary, but we have to consider that also. And in future, like I mentioned earlier, big data handling, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning techniques will help to identify these issues. But the problem is, with the changing climate, we experience very extremely heavy rainfalls, which is unprecedented before. So most of the well-developed countries also cannot cope with this type of weather events. So that is the thing. We in future, what future will exactly hold is very difficult to predict. So these are the things we have to work. Thank you very much. So to protect our climate, we have to reduce reuse and recycle in future. Thank you. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer right now. In other questions in chat box? No, nothing. Okay.
No, madam, we haven't received any questions on the chat.
Okay.
So thank you very much, madam. As you showed today, since climate and environment changes are definitely going to have an impact on our future lives,
Yeah.
we think this will be very productive for all of us. We can also implement those simple things you said we could do. So thank you, madam, for joining with us, not only today, but also during the past 2 weeks. We will be uploading the lecture to our official YouTube channel of the Globe Family of Royal College, so everyone can access it. And before today's proceedings comes to an end, I would like to invite the chairman of the Globe Family of Royal College, Janit Munasinghe, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Buddha. First of all, I would like to thank Mrs. Shiromani Jayawardena for accepting our invitation and gracing us with her presence on 3 occasions. Thank you, Miss, for all your wise words and answering our questions without hesitation. We admire your everyday work and wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. I would also like to thank our principal, Mr. MVS Gunathilaka, and the Senior Master of Clubs and Societies, Mr. TDCP Amaratunga, for their continuous guidance and support despite their busy schedules. A huge thank you to our teaching charge, Mrs. Pushkarani De Silva, for being the supporting backbone of the club and guiding us in everything we do. We would have never been able to conclude this project as we have, if not for her guidance. I would also like to thank the club's committee for directing us in order to make this project a success. Next up, I would like to thank the participants for joining, asking questions, and helping us to make this an interactive session throughout. We hope that you all use the knowledge that you gained today for the betterment of planet Earth. Last but not least, I would like to thank the co-chairs of the project, Tanuga and Savitu, as well as the organizing committee for their commitment and dedication that each of you all showed in order to make this project a success. As all good things must come to an end, I would like to conclude today's proceedings by leaving you all with a quote. The greatest threat to the planet is the belief that someone else will save it. No one is too small to start. If you believe and if you think anyone can achieve anything, never think that you can't do it alone. It only takes one person and one act of kindness to inspire others and create change. Thank you and hope you have a great day.
Thank you.